It's hype, it's groovy, it's yours. It's a whole new dimension. QFM, Africa's modern radio.
26 minutes to 10 in the morning right here on Stretcher's Not So Mellow Mornings Friday edition, where we take it a notch or two up through the gears. That is absolutely right. I am, of course, with Christopher Wurst, Wurst, I keep getting that wrong. What's wrong with me? And you told me, just as we began things, he is, of course, the public affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy. Okay, so we're just chatting a bit about his stay in Zambia over the past 3 years. Okay, during the period you have been in Zambia, how would you rate the Zambian media in general? And I think let's start with radio because, of course, this is the medium that we are on right now.
Well, I think it's also the most important medium. I think it's where most people in Zambia find out about what's going on in the world. Is through radio. So we spent a lot of time at the embassy trying to come up with programs to help people, help train broadcasters, do programs on specific things like HIV and AIDS or investigative reporting or business reporting to try to help people. But I've visited a lot of radio stations in the country. I mean, it's a thriving medium. I think that it's important as journalists that people get the right message. I think that you have a big responsibility to make sure that the stories that you report are truthful and that they are accurate and that they hold a mirror to the society. I think it's an awesome responsibility because so many people really do find out about the world and find out ways about how they should live and make decisions through the radio. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm impressed by what I see here at QFM and some of the radio stations that I visit. I wish that all stations would endeavor to really be professional in the reporting that they do and make sure that they understand the responsibility that they owe to their listenership, because it's really like a community of people. I think that, as I've already said, the newspapers are probably the least have the least impact because I think that the least amount of people overall in the country read them. But I think they're still important because I think that they still form opinions and people want to know what's on the front page every day. I do, as I said, I was kind of joking, but I mean, too many days I wake up and find out that one politician is calling another a liar or saying something negative about their family. And I think that there are too many people that are doing too many good things in this country and too many important stories to waste that much time on political fighting. It's become a little bit of a soap opera. So that can be disappointing at times. I do, and as far as television goes, I think that that's very influential as well, and I hope that they endeavor to be as free as possible. For my 3 years here, we've been very outspoken advocates of the Freedom of Information law and legislation, the ZMBC Act, the IBA, all of these pieces of legislation. Truly, in a democratic society, you need a free media to be able to tell the citizens what's going on in their country. And so that's something that we feel very, very strongly about. And the Ministry of Information here has indicated that they want to pass Freedom of Information legislation. I hope that they do. I think it's very important. I would also hasten to say that with freedom comes responsibility, and that reporters need to be professional. True. Maybe regulation in the form of media owners, radio station owners,
self-regulation,
editors, making sure that their staff are up to the standard that they want them to be, and that if reporters are being lazy or not using sources or not getting the full story like they should or not following a story to its conclusion, that they get in trouble because their editor says, I'm not going to accept this anymore. We need a professional standard.
What would you say about the standard so far in the private media? Because it is a challenge, I think, for the private media to do the job that we do. What would you say about community radio stations and commercial radio stations and TV stations?
I think it runs the gamut. I mean, I think you've got reporters that are very, very hungry, that are out chasing stories, that are trying to convince their editors to let them follow a story for days or maybe even weeks, which is really important. A story doesn't start one day and then end at the end of the day, and then a new story starts the next day. Sometimes stories take a while to develop. True. And I would encourage editors to give their reporters some elasticity so that they can chase these stories and they can find out what's going on. I've seen lazy journalism here too, though. I've seen reporters that just wait for the government communique to come out or the press statement, and then they copy it down in their own voice, maybe with a typo or two, and put it out. And that's no good.
No,
I feel as a public affairs officer, I feel sometimes underutilized because there's also access to information that I can provide reporters, or that many, many people in similar positions can do, but they don't always take advantage of it. So I would like to see reporters here use their cell phones a little bit more and develop their sources a little bit more, so that they can have stories that are a little bit meatier sometimes.
Nice. Just to backtrack just a little bit, you did say, of course, something about teaching in South Africa. If you'd just like to run through this, your educational background.
Sure. I actually come from an educational background, and which is why some of the education programs, and I can go into those in a little bit, are so important here in Zambia. But yeah, I was a history and literature teacher in South Africa, and got to know diplomats there and saw what they were doing. Got to take some time spending time with my students out in the grassroots in South Africa, doing community projects, and said, hey, this is pretty cool. I want to do this. So that's how I made the jump from education. But that was my background. Okay,
all right. And what are some of the areas you'd point out to say the media in Zambia has done a good job, and areas you would want them to improve on?
Well, again, I think that who is the beneficiary at the end of the day, and I think that the citizens of Zambia should be given news about what's going on in their country to help them form opinions and to help them make decisions. Election time is a great example. In the United States, we have debates, we have these campaigns that go on, some say too long. Certainly the last presidential campaign seemed like it went on forever. Yeah. But at the end of these processes, you have a public that's really educated about where the candidates stand, what they're going to do in this case, what they're going to do in that case. I would love to see more issue-oriented reporting. I've also said that I would like to see more chasing the stories for a longer time. So if you have a big story that's on page 1 on Monday, I want to know on Tuesday, how does that story develop, and throughout the week. And sometimes we're just given these stories that that are one-offs. We've seen journalists here break stories that have led to investigations, that have led to resignations.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It's an absolute good thing. It's a responsibility to show people what's going on, and if people find out what's going on and they reject that, that is one of the pillars of a democratic society. And so, I think that journalists can be proud of some of the work that they've done here. I think that there are reporters that I've met that are very, very good health reporters. Obviously there's a lot of health, there's a lot of opportunity to report on health issues here. It wouldn't hurt to have more specialization, I think. And that's a tough thing, as media organizations are struggling to find more money and to fund their stations. But if you have reporters that can report at a slightly higher level on things and talk about things specifically about business or about education or about health, I think the public would benefit from that and become more informed.
Okay. In the past 3 years, what does a typical working day of yours look like?
Well, the greatest thing about my job is that there is absolutely no typical working day. But every day I have to just take this opportunity because I've been here for 3 years. But I work very, very closely, specifically with 2 Zambians, Mark Maseko and Zofeli Ngoma, and they're the information assistants that I work with in the mission. But every day I get to work and we talk about what the stories are that day, and how we might want to follow stories up, the media queries that we've had, and that's a big part of our day. We talk about what's the story. I feel lucky because my job is to tell the story of what the U.S. mission is doing in Zambia, and we've always got these amazing, interesting stories going on. And it might be some grassroots agriculture project out in the middle of a rural area, or it might be the launch of a big PEPFAR program. It might be like this great concert that USAID partner did, Rhythm of Life, a couple of weeks ago. It could be something about governance. It might be the Freedom of Information Act. It could be an education program where we're going into rural schools and finding out how to better help the Ministry of Education try to bring education up. So a typical day for me is about 10 o'clock in the morning. I find out which direction my day is going to go, and then I just go that way. Okay. But I never know when I go in what it's going to be.